Okay, good morning. Welcome to our webinar series on compliance. So today, we'll be doing a webinar on how to obtain a money lending license in Lagos State. I'll be sharing my slides shortly. Okay, so the topic is regulatory compliance for money lending businesses in Lagos State. So can you hear me? Can just drop a comment on the chat box if you can hear me. Can anyone hear me? Okay, thank you. So first off, we'll be starting with definition of money lending. So what is money lending? Like the name implies, it's simply granting of loans or lending money to individuals for various purposes. And this can be in two phases. So it can either be physical or digital. Physical is the usual ones we know about where you meet somebody or you approach a business and they loan you an amount for whatever purpose. While digital, you don't have to approach them at a physical office. You can just interact with them online and then they go through some KYC or certain processes and then assess the customer before granting the loan. So in Lagos State, if you want to operate a money lending business, you have to obtain a license. If you want to operate it both physical and digital, that is, people can come into your office, obtain loans, and they can also contact you online to obtain loans. You would have to get an FCCPC license. FCCPC means the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. So they are in charge of digital lending in Nigeria. So after obtaining a money lending license in Lagos State, you would also need to get approved by FCCPC to carry on this lending business digitally. So that's basically the definition. Okay, so what are the requirements? Now you have decided that this is the business that you want to do. The first thing is to get registered with Corporate Affairs Commission. So, and in getting registered, the minimum share capital has to be 20 million naira. So you can do a maximum, but the barest minimum has to be 20 million naira. And then you would also indicate on your memorandum and article of association that you are going to be engaged in the business of money lending. So normally you can register a business in Nigeria with just one director. But when it comes to money lending, it has to be two directors because over time, from the regulatory body that grants this license, they always prefer when there are two directors on a company. So in case one person is not around, they will be able to communicate with the other director. So they usually carry out like an inspection before granting the license and some other requirements. So they would always prefer that you have two directors. That's why you don't have to, or for money lending businesses, you don't have to stick to the one minimum director required for registering businesses in Nigeria. And then after that, after getting registered and obtaining your CAC documents, which comprises of a certificate, status report, and then memorandum and articles of association, the next thing is to apply to the Commissioner of Police to get a police report. This report will be followed up with a fingerprint search report. So when you apply for this, you would submit your thumbprint and they will carry out their search. And then once they are satisfied that you've been cleared, there are no criminal records of you, and you are good to carry on such a business, they would also indicate it. So this is what we call character reports, and this is done for both directors. So whosoever name is written on the CAC document is the person that has to apply for this character report. Then after that, the next step is to proceed to court. And the particular court in this instance is the magistrate court. So the magistrate court is the one in charge of granting a go-ahead for applicants who want to obtain a money lending license. So you apply to the court with your police reports, your CAC documents, and also a formal application in the company's letterhead document. And then once the court is satisfied or the magistrate is satisfied that you are good to go based on the assessment of the police reports, CAC documents, then they would issue a document called Form B, which is a money lender certificate, recommending you to the regulatory body that is in charge of money lending businesses in Lagos, which is the Ministry of Home Affairs. So they would issue this form telling the Ministry of Home Affairs that, oh, please, you can go ahead and grant a money lending license to these applicants because we're satisfied that this person is good to go, good to apply for this license. So when you've been given that, you proceed to the Ministry of Home Affairs in Lagos State. So different states have different bodies that guide issuance of money lending licenses, but because for this webinar, we're focusing on Lagos State, it's the Ministry of Home Affairs that is in charge. And at the Ministry of Home Affairs, you would attach all of these documents, which is your CAC, your police reports, Form B from the magistrate court, and then application documents to the ministry itself, applying for the license. Then you also need to apply with tax clearance certificates of the directors. Now, if the company has been if the company you're trying to apply a money lending license with has been in existence for a while, they've been operational, probably they've been carrying out other activities, and now you want to add money lending. Of course, you would have amended your object before applying. If this particular company has been in existence, then you would need to get a tax clearance for the company and the directors. But if it's a new company that has just been registered, then of course you've obviously not carried out any business operations. So the only tax clearance you'll be expected to submit is that of the directors. And this tax clearance has to be recent tax clearance, so the past 3 years leading up until when you're applying for the license. And then you would also need to show evidence of registration with the Special Control Unit against Money Laundering. So this is a unit under EFCC. It's basically you just, or is an assessment by this unit that they believe such business or such a company can be a front for money laundering, but this applicant has agreed that they are aware of such fact and they would not be engaging in money laundering. So it's just a regular compliance requirement. So you would attach your certificates that has been issued to you, and then of course you have to come with a reference letter of the company's bankers. So whichever bank the company has an account with, you obtain a reference letter from them stating that you are good to apply for a money lending license. Then you would also need to make payment of the license fee and show proof of such payment. And you also need to have a signage at your premises. So when submitting your application, you don't need to inform them of this signage, but this would be considered during inspection. So you need to have like a signage in your money lending office. Remember, this is a physical license. You're applying for a physical license. So when they've considered all of these things and they are satisfied that everything checks out and you are good to go, then they would come to your office and then conduct a physical inspection, look at the place, if it is fit for people to work in, check your records, if everything checks well, if they are satisfied that you are good to go, you are not being fraudulent, you are not misrepresenting somebody else, that you are actually going to be doing the business for which you are applying for the license, then they would take down that report, go back, and after a while, issue you the license. So the requirement is very straightforward, very easy. Now, for the license fee, there's an application fee of 50,000 naira and then a license fee of 300,000 naira. Now, these amounts are paid to the Ministry of Home Affairs, which is the body that issues this license. If you, for the other documents or the other requirements to get this license, those payments are made to those people in charge. For example, obtaining the Form B at the magistrate court. So you make a payment there, which is a very small amount. You make those payments there. And then for obtaining the police report application, if there's any amount, they would also notify you and tell you, okay, this is an application fee that you need to pay for getting this. They'll also tell you. For the SCOMO, which is the special unit against money laundering, if there is a fee required for whatsoever purpose, you'll also be notified of such an amount too. So this fee is just associated with the license itself. And then the service fee, of course, to obtain the license. So the service fee is not fixed. It is dependent on the agent who is processing this license for you. So they will take certain things into consideration. If you've not gotten anything before, let's say you've never registered a business, you are just starting off, you want to start registration, then they will take into consideration all of these things, let you know the amounts for registration, the amounts for obtaining tax clearance documents, the amounts for obtaining Form B, and all other requirements that are needed. They would include that and then add their service fee. So it is the extent of which you need their service that will determine what the service fee will be. So it's tailored for your particular need. So that's why there is no fixed fee for the service fee. It just depends on the person or the company who is assisting in obtaining this license. Now, this license is valid for just the timeline for obtaining this license is between 8 to 12 weeks. So these 8 to 12 weeks starts counting after submission. So when you submit all of those documents, then sometimes within 4 weeks or 2 weeks, you'll be called upon and then informed of an inspection. So the inspection is done in such a way that it is impromptu, in the sense that they might tell you a day to when they are coming for inspection, or they might tell you the day they are coming for inspection. So you have to be on ground. You have to ensure that your office is clean, well put together, everything checks out, because you can't tell when they will be coming for inspection. So that's the whole idea behind the inspection. They just want to make sure that you are not acting drama. You are not just trying to put things in place to get the license, and then after getting the license, you go and start using it for whatever. Because money lending is a very sensitive business. So they would notify you like 2 weeks after, or 2 to 4 weeks after submission. It depends on the amount of work they have. because the body in charge of granting this license has some other things they do as well for Lagos State. So they will notify you. And then after coming for inspection, then they would let you know when you can come for the license or when the license will be available. So they will go back, sit down. They also take pictures as well. So they will consider the pictures, consider their assessments, look at their reports before granting this license. So the timeline is within 8 to 12 weeks. And then the validity of the license. So the license is valid for just a year. So a year meaning the normal year. So regardless of whenever you are granted this license, if you obtain the license on the 29th of December, or you are issued the license 20th of December, on the 31st of December, your license is expiring. So if you want to obtain this license, you have to make sure that you start the processing as soon as possible. In fact, you start processing all other documents before the year in which you want to get the license. Let's say you want to get the license next year. So you start processing the other documents this year. And then by January, you would have had all your documents complete and have everything complete. Then you just go to the ministry straight up. Once they commence work for the year, you go and submit your documents. That way you would enjoy the benefits of the license for a longer period of time. So you can be granted the license on time and then use it to carry on your business before it expires. So it's a yearly license. And this license is subject to renewal. So when you want to renew, the requirements are almost like the requirements for obtaining the license, but just some extra documents. So for example, you need your CAC document, you need an application. So from the magistrate court, you'll be getting 2 documents, which is Form B and Form C. Then you would also need an updated tax clearance certificate. So now, because the company has been in operation, then you can apply for a tax clearance for the company. That's if you apply with a new company. And then it's directors as well. So you also need to submit evidence of payment of the renewal fee. And then you also do a police report again, because a lot can happen from the last time you obtained the license up until when you're applying for the next license. So they have to be sure that the people they are granting this license to, or the persons who will be managing this license or working for the company, are people that can be trusted, and they would use the license for legal purposes. So you submit a police report, and then they would also come and inspect the office as well. They always do an inspection. So they would not say, oh, because we've inspected your office before, we don't need to. No, they would still come, because sometimes you might change address. And if you do change address, yeah, expected to also notify them of this change. And they will also come and inspect the place as well. Then you have to submit statement of the company's account. So minimum of 3 to 6 months statement of account, because the company has been in operation, of course, instead of the bankers. So now you're not just going to do bankers reference because you've been in operation. And then signage and your SCOMO documents. So foreigners are not prevented from engaging in this business, but if there's a foreign company who would like to apply for this license, the additional document that expected of them is a business permit, work and residence permit, expatriate quota, and then expatriate tax assessment for foreign companies. So they have to make sure that all of this is in place to apply. And then they would also need evidence of remittance of employees' tax. So, of course, running the business, it should have grown from the last time you obtained the license up until now that you're renewing. So you've obviously been engaging employees, or if you have employees, so you've been paying them, you also need to show evidence of remitting their taxes. And then, like I said, if you've changed the address for the company or the directors, so if their addresses have changed from what it was on the documents, CAC documents, then you have to update the commission as well, the ministry, sorry. So you submit this, and then once they've gone through your documents, have come for inspection, have considered all of these things and they feel that you are good to go, then they would approve the renewal. It's also possible that they don't approve renewal. So when they come for inspection and they find something fishy, then they would not approve renewal. So sometime last year, there were reports from the Ministry of Home Affairs that all the lands that people or foreigners carry on the business of money lending with using Nigerian, and then they try to bypass the share capital requirements and certain requirements. Now, these Nigerians, there's no issue with that, but the problem is these Nigerians are put in as figureheads. So, for example, the share capital doesn't comply. The Nigerians don't know what go on. They are just there and they're like, okay, your name is on the document. So in paper, they are directors or shareholders, but in reality, they don't even know what's happening in the company. And if that company is actually carrying on the alleged money lending. So this is one of the reasons why they do inspection. They would want to speak with the owners of these businesses, speak to the directors, and if there is any reason, also want to speak to the shareholder, if the shareholder is different from the directors. So they just want to ensure that everything is in place, everything is done in accordance with the law, and this company is going to be conducting a money lending business as it has stated. So then the application fee for renewal is lower than when you're applying, of course. Now, if you are renewing, your application fee is going to be 5,000 naira, and then license fee is 150,000 naira. So together is 155,000 naira. Of course, like I explained, professional fee or service fee is dependent on the agent assisting you with obtaining this license. So they would collect their fees based off of what you need and what they charge. Then the license is also valid for a year. So it expires December 31st, regardless of when it was issued or when you applied. Now, if, for example, you've been carrying on the business of money lending and then you fail to renew this license, you can say that, oh, I didn't renew the license and I didn't carry on money lending activities, but how can we test that? There are currently no measures to test that you've not been carrying on the business of money lending. So what the ministry has done to prevent people from carrying on the business of money lending without renewing their license is, if you fail to renew your license, when you want to renew your license, you would be charged a penalty fee. Now, this penalty fee is the same fee as a renewal fee. So you will just pay the fee that you would have used to renew the license. And that's it. At the point of renewal, you just pay that amount again. So you're not going to submit, let's say, documents for the year that you didn't, you just only pay the fee for that year and the new year that you're going to be renewing. So that's the effect. So it's important that you renew your license when it is due, instead of paying that amount that you would have made use of or had a license for that year. Then the renewal is way faster. So it takes 6 to 8 weeks. And of course, like I said, the timeline starts counting from when you submit your documents at the ministry. And like I said earlier, foreigners can engage in this business. It is not restricted to only Nigerians. The only thing is you have to ensure that you meet up with the share capital requirements, which is 100 million for company registration. So the company share capital, minimum share capital has to be 100 million. So I know you'll be wondering, why do you have to obtain this license? You can just go ahead and carry on the business. Some people do this, but money lending is a very sensitive business. Now, you can't carry on such business without a license. And it is actually a criminal offense to carry on this business without obtaining a license. When you, let's say you even decide to carry on such business, and then you have people who default in repayments, how do you expect to pursue repayments? You cannot enjoy the benefits provided by the law for obtaining your monies or getting paid back loans that you've given out when you have not obtained this license. So when you are wrong, you don't expect to come and make use of the law. You'll be penalized for that. So you can't enjoy certain benefits. So it's important that you obtain this license if you intend on carrying on the business of money lending in Lagos State, just to prevent issue, make sure your company has a good reputation. And sometimes the body that is in charge of granting the digital license, because it is a body that consumers or customers can always report a lot of issues to. So if people report your business, then you face the full wrath of the law that, oh, you're carrying on a business without a license. Because these people know. Sometimes when they come to obtain such loans, they will tell you, oh, I need this money for XYZ. Oh, and because they might not see, because if you have the license, of course, you will display it at your entrance, which is the common practice at your office. So when they have observed and they've discovered that, oh, you don't have a license to run such a business, they want to take advantage. So will take loans and may not repay because they know that you can't make use of the law in getting such money back. And then they would also report you. So when they report you to the Consumer Protection Commission, those people are not going to be bothered about the fact that there are people who are owing you money, but they'll be more concerned about that the fact that you've been carrying on business without being assessed whether you are fit to carry on such a business. And of course, you will be sanctioned for that. So it is important that you obtain a license for this business. And of course, Firmus Advisory, we're always here to guide you. We can assist you in ensuring that the process is seamless, both for obtaining and then for renewing the license. Yeah. So that will be all for this session. If you have any question, please ask, or you can drop it in the chat box.